They're like, we know that you're going to do it, so you might as well do it under our roof.
That's a very common.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather them learn to do it safely.
Right.
So they're going to drink with us.
I own rehabs. And our biggest thing is educating the parents about enabling. Because there is a fine line between creating a judgment-free zone. Hey, we love you no matter what. And then drink here, right? And it's like, is that the type of environment that you want to create for your children where they feel safe, or is it lawlessness?
We are here today with the beautiful Kat Sorensen, who's a wonderful friend of Peter and I. And I wanted to preface today's episode to say it's a bit of a sensitive topic because we are going to be talking about drugs and alcohol, but I think it is an important one, specifically when it comes to families. But I wanted to introduce Kat first. So Kat is a wonderful businesswoman. She has opened multiple recovery centers right around America. She has an online sober community with well over 1,000 members now, and it's barely been going a year. It's coming up to a year at Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And she is a sober living coach together with her partner, Zach. They are doing amazing things in that space. So welcome to the show, Kat. We feel so privileged to have you here.
Yeah. Wait, do I get to talk about you guys? Because you're amazing. I mean, you guys truly are. You've helped me partner. I'm so thankful that we met when we did. But, that you're part of the foundation in helping me scale my business and all the coaching, and that we get to do this. You guys built the most beautiful website for me.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to see what God is going to do with this. Truly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I wish I just show everyone. I'm like, I don't know if you saw my website, but this is it. Like, it is the most beautiful, I just want to, I'm so proud of it. You guys are truly incredible and so skilled, and you took everything I wanted and you made it 10 times better than I thought it could be. So super proud of it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the team would love to hear that.
Yeah.
I think when we first approached you about this, I said that I wanted the topic today to be, can you drug proof your kids? And I feel like it was a loaded, you kind of went,
I wish. Yeah.
Because I think we all know that the answer is no, not completely. But I really do feel, and through my testimony, and we really want to hear yours, that there's possibly some conversations that can be had from a younger age to perhaps have some boundaries towards making that happen. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and your testimony, and then about what you do now, who you work with now, and the communities that you work with.
I'd love to. So, as you guys know, I grew up in a great home. I had two loving parents who, really gave me everything I ever wanted. I was not spoiled. I was, taught, how to work for things. But for all intents and purposes, I grew up in like a middle-class home in Denver, Colorado. I had two parents that worked very hard to give me essentially everything that a girl could ever want. And I always talk about my story because for whatever reason, I isolated as a little girl. I really found it difficult to fit in, and, not really there's not really anything my parents could have done differently, but I felt just different as a little girl. And when I started to experiment with drugs and alcohol, I was 13, and I was at a friend's house. Her parents were out of town, and, her older brother had alcohol, and we stayed the night, and, I got drunk for my first time. And it really kind of relieved this obsession that I had of, my mind of saying, like, you're not good enough. You don't fit in. You're basically an alien in your own body. It was very strange. And so when I finally had relief of that, it felt like, okay, well, this is my new preset. Like, this is how I have to live. And so, alcohol started to take on a role in my life that, I didn't look like a lot of other, people who you would think like have a drug and alcohol problem, because I was very accomplished. I was still in varsity sports. I still, was in Future Business Leaders of America. We have something called DECA. I was very, very driven and ambitious, but what comes with that is this extreme pressure to be perfect. And so I found, drugs and alcohol could somewhat like relieve that and give me a like a sense of like, okay, like just a mental break from all of the pressure that really I put on myself. And, on top of that, feeling like I didn't fit in. And I think that's just a spiritual condition. God plants this thing in us that causes us to just need him. And sometimes, what we do is we reach for the closest thing. And that might be accomplishments. That might be, getting validation from our peers. That might be something like drugs and alcohol. So, when I found essentially what happened when I was 18, my parents were like really beside themselves. Like they could not control me. I was the rebellious child. I had an older brother who was very, very straight edge. He did everything perfectly, star of the football team. And so then they had me, and I am this, kind of wild child, but also, have these external like accolades. And so nobody really knew what was going on except my parents would see me. They caught me driving drunk several times. Well, a few times. They took my car away. I'd sneak out. I mean, I was just uncontrollable. And my mom would say to me, "What do you think is going to happen when you go to college? Like, how do you think this is gonna go down?" And my biggest fear was like, "Oh my goodness, I might have to come back here and live with them," which I hated because they were just trying to really control me. And so I actually was seeking a better way of life. And I found, I was working at a restaurant, and a gentleman there shared the gospel of Jesus with me. And he talked to me about, all of the things that I was doing to try to fit in and succeed, and the striving and the running and all of these things that, with Jesus I have rest, and that he actually died on the cross for my sins so that I wouldn't have to do this. And I just was immediately convicted. I went home, I read in my Bible, I accepted Jesus. I truly did have a transformation. Me and that gentleman, actually, he was a preacher's son, and we got engaged on my 19th birthday. We got married a year later. And I was able to really contain my addiction and alcoholism through, I would say, religion, not necessarily through faith.
Yeah.
And so for about 2 to 3 years, I was abstinent from drugs and alcohol. And I thought like, oh, I got this. This is, essentially kind of handled because I've been baptized, and like that's an old life. It's kind of gone away. But what happened was I graduated and I started drinking again. And I thought because there was a period of abstinence in college that really I didn't have a problem anymore. And that's pretty common for a lot of people as they believe like, oh, I've been able to stay away from it, so that means I don't have a problem. But what I've learned is that it's not actually how often, you drink, or, if you can have a period of abstinence. It's what happens when you have just one. And what happens when I have just one is that I lose all control. And sometimes that looks like I have one glass of wine and then my mind is totally hijacked, and I am watching every single person to see, okay, are they going to finish theirs? Okay, how about them? Maybe if I took all of our dishes to the sink, they wouldn't quite notice if I finished. And because my mind is now totally on autopilot of how can I get more?
Yeah.
And then sometimes I can't, I choose not to control it, and I just get absolutely obliterated. And, I find myself 3 days later winding up in, a place I didn't think that was even fathomable. And so what happened very quickly is I burnt my entire marriage to the ground. I burnt the career to the ground. We had moved at that point really hoping, hey, if we can change location, it would be different. And, where I go there, I follow. And I wasn't really truly getting to the root cause of the issues that I had, which I really believed, religion was going to fix. I really believed like a healthy relationship with a man was going to fix. I didn't really know that I had this underlying problem of addiction and alcoholism that I believe was passed on generationally.
Yeah.
They say like what we don't address, our kids will have to.
Yeah.
And, my parents, they have a very normal relationship with alcohol. Their parents, however, did not. And so, I do believe that part of this is genetic. I went for about, after my divorce, I went for about 8 years just really trying to experiment, trying to control it, lowering my standards faster than I could violate them, rebelling against God, being really upset. Like, okay, I don't understand, God. I thought if I did all these things, like this accomplishment mindset, right, that you were going to fix me. And, he desperately wants a relationship with me, but I didn't know that at 31 years old, he would introduce me to a 12-step program that really, really reintroduced me to myself. And, I believe that the Bible is my user guide, but I also have another user guide, which is the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so every day, there's plenty of people where it's like, okay, here is how you live your life. You get instruction from God. I have two, and I have a book of Alcoholics Anonymous because I believe that I am truly an alcoholic. I'm sober today by the grace of God. I just got 10 years.
Yeah.
November 1st, 2015 is my sobriety date, freedom date for sure. But, I have a program that I have to do every single day. And I was actually just talking about this morning, that I wake up and, I read my morning literature and I meditate and I pray and I talk to other alcoholics and I'm of service. I cold plunge, I go to the gym, I walk my dogs, I, eat my 5 meals, I drink a gallon of water a day. I have all of these things I have to do to just maintain, right? And then tomorrow when I wake up, I got to do it all over again. There is no, okay, I'm good. Like we can just like take a back seat, put it on cruise control. Like this is the, program of action that I have to take every single day to ensure that I keep the things that I have, and I do the things that got me from day 0 to day 1 to get sober. I do those things every day consistently. And rather than thinking about how much time I have, I just think about, okay, the next 24 hours. Yeah. What can I do today that will help me stay aligned in God's will, but also to be of service of others? Because my primary purpose today is to help the alcoholic and the addict that's still suffering. Yeah. Yeah.
So you said you grew up in a really normal home. I grew up in a really normal home. For Sri, not so much.
Yeah.
And so her testimony is a little bit different.
I kind of feel I have a similar story, similar but different, but I started drinking actually at 11. And I would go to a friend's house before school and we would get drunk. And by 12, I was going to school regularly drunk. And I wonder how, I just think maybe the teacher, it was so far outside the box of context for him to have this middle school student going to school at 12 drunk. My family did not have a healthy relationship with alcohol. Neither of my parents, my father was in the police, and that community, especially in the 80s and 90s, alcohol was a lot of, I guess, how they coped. They had a police bar attached to the police station, and after school, that's what they do. And
after school?
After
work.
After work.
Yeah.
That's what they would do. They'd go to the police bar. I grew up around that. My parents were loving. I love them dearly, but they were alcoholics. So that is how I grew up. It was very normal to me, that lifestyle. So I was going to school drunk at 12, smoking at 12. I started using marijuana probably 14, 15, and then, or probably 13, 14. And then at 15, I was with a really close friend of mine, and we were taking butane. I don't know if you know what that is over here. And she actually died in my arms very
Wow.
traumatically. It was a very traumatic way
Yeah.
to witness someone pass away.
Yeah.
Gave a mouth to mouth, but
Yeah.
obviously the way that takes someone out, there was no coming back. So at 15, my relationship with drugs very quickly ended because I did try using marijuana a couple of months later, and it was just it was not a good place to go to.
Yeah.
But my relationship with alcohol has been up and down since then. Went a long period after getting saved at 16, where we didn't, neither Peter or I drank until we moved to Australia. And then there's a big drinking culture in Australia compared to, say, in New Zealand with the community we were sort of associating with. It was very normalised. In Australia, we started drinking again. So I am now a year sober, basically coming up a year sober.
I love
So
that.
that's kind of my background. But it was interesting to hear, sort of started around a similar age, those sort of pre-teens, early teens coming into middle school. And it makes me wonder if that's a common age. I guess it would be if I think of my friends and my kids and their friends, a common age to perhaps start experimenting with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
With your experience with your facilities,
Yeah.
obviously you'll be working with a lot of young adults and speaking to them and their families. Is that sort of a common scenario for it to be starting around that age, or is that an assumption?
You know, and just to give some context, so when I was 2 years sober, that's when I opened my first drug and alcohol rehab. We kind of skipped that part of the story. And so my passion is to really help people when they come in. You know, I'm at the foundation. Like, they are usually, it's their worst day ever. Their families are dropping them off. They may even have a needle in their arm when they're coming into my facility. And, you know, we get them for the first 30 days, which is like really the stabilization. But I believe it's the true foundation. And so, you know, my belief is that if the foundation isn't built correctly, you know, all of the work that they do after is probably going to be in vain. And I've had my facilities since 2018. We have 3 now, and have helped hundreds, maybe thousands of people. The biggest thing that we see is that this feeling of not being okay in their own skin, right? And that's why so many people, you know, because you would think that we would all come from a background like yours, right? Where you have something traumatic happen and we turn to drugs and alcohol. But for whatever reason, the overall feeling is usually, I don't feel okay in who I am. And so I'm going to reach for the quickest thing that's going to shut my brain up. And, you know, I was thinking about and preparing for our discussion today, and I was actually talking to Zach about it too, because he's in recovery, is, you know, is there anything that our families could have said to us? And I really don't believe that there's anything they could have said, but I do think that there are environments that could have been provided where it's a safe space, right? I think first and foremost is, you know, your parents are really the cookie cutter for what you see for the rest of your relationships. And so if you truly want to help your kids not go down that path, you probably shouldn't be participating in that behavior, right? I think, you know, so many of them are like, oh, I want to show them that it's healthy. And it's, you know, it all comes really down to core values, right? What are your core values as a family? Creating a safe place where somebody can come and ask questions or say, like, I just don't feel okay. I know that, like, I joke that, you know, when I came out of my mom's womb, I just felt like a raw nerve, right? I just felt like I felt everything. I feel it deeply. I want to talk about it. It is like this, like, you know, something happens and it feels traumatic and it's a paper cut, right? And it's like, I just need someone to tell me I'm okay. And my family did the best they could to provide that environment for me. However, I didn't feel heard or seen, right? And so, you know, making sure that there's like a non-judgment zone, you know, because it did feel like this kind of brimstone and fire, and I didn't really give them a choice. I was just this rebellious wild child. And I haven't been blessed with children yet. So all I can do is just take from my experience. But I do know that when you build a trusting, loving relationship that doesn't have judgment, it's just like, it just feels, safe. And it feels like all of our kids are going to be presented with an opportunity, right? And so what do you want them to do with that opportunity? My hope is that my children would come to me and say, hey, this happened, and I did this. And it's like, okay, I want them to feel safe. I want them to feel safe, heard, and seen, and that there's no judgment, because I'm not delusional. I know that this is the world that we live in now. I was warned. My family said this runs in the family, and it didn't matter to me because I just didn't feel okay. And they say that, parents creating like firm boundaries, and rules. And I don't really think that for me, it's about feeling accepted and loved and being in a place where you just feel safe.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can just like rest. I also had those friends whose parents let us drink. They're like, we know that you're going to do it, so you might as well do it under our roof.
That's a very common.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather them learn to do it safely.
Right.
So they're going to drink with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just have to be careful with that. I don't have children, so I've not been in that position, but I do know that I own rehabs. And our biggest thing is educating the parents about enabling, because there is a fine line between creating a judgment-free zone, right? Hey, we love you no matter what, and then drink here, right? And it's like, is that the type of environment that you want to create for your children where they feel safe, or is it lawlessness?
Yeah.
Right? How do you guys feel about that? And do you allow your children to drink, and, do they drink underage?
Well, this is the thing, is we probably didn't do things the way that we would have wanted to have done it now in hindsight, because we were that family that said, we will have a drink together as a family.
From a super young age.
Not from super young age. They're probably about 16, I guess. But still, that's quite young.
And even then, not commonly, not like every night at dinner. Or,
special occasion sort of stuff at a barbecue. But we knew that all of their friends, like, it was quite common for us to hear about what was going on in their friends' homes and what was okay in their friends' homes. And we all also fostered this environment where we said there's nothing you can do that's going to shock us.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably one of the key things that we've kind of carried through. It's like, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, you can call us. Yeah. And we're here to listen and to no judgment. We'll just come and get you, and we will remove you from that environment if you're feeling unsafe.
And I think a lot of families say that, and a lot of people, a lot of parents have that intention, but to follow through with it at the time when they've come to you and gone, I've done this thing and I'm in trouble, or it's backfired, or, I have drunk too much, Mum, and they're like 16, 17, and like, I don't want to get in my car. To not freak out in that moment. And I actually asked our eldest daughter, Hannah, the other day when we were talking about doing this podcast, and I'm like, oh gosh, like, we're not perfect parents. I mean, you know that. We've all got our things. But I'm like, what did we do right? Like, what's one thing that you feel like you do want to take into your parenting? And she said, we all knew that we could tell you anything and you would not freak out. And that's not to say we didn't parent, but they just knew in the moment when they were feeling overwhelmed and maybe a bit of shame for whatever the scenario was, or freaking out and didn't know what to do. We just always wanted it to be not like, I can't call Mum. It's like, I've got to call Mum because or I've got to call Dad. He's going to know what to do. Yeah. And then when everyone's calmed down and the situation's a day or two or a few hours, post, then we'd sit down and sometimes it would be a really hard chat. Yeah. But not from a place of shame. Yeah. We haven't always got that right, but we've been pretty intentional of trying to do that from the get-go. they know my past, they know my story.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't stopped them from, trying a few things. And they've come to us with some pretty hairy stories about trying a few things. And but they could talk
and
about
is
it
that
after.
hard to listen to without judgment, or does it feel like, I mean, is it hard to actually act that out of the no judgment zone?
Yeah, I mean, it's super hard, especially for me.
Yeah.
See, I grew up in an environment where everything was quite normal. She always says to me,
It's a very safe place.
It's a very safe place.
Yeah.
And so I try to bring that in, but it's hard because we do use the line with them, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yeah.
And they understand that it's they even can repeat that back to us now because they know that when they're in those environments. But in terms of being able to sort of have judgment-free zones, it's difficult because it's one of those conversations where you just want to say, your piece and bring a well, I told you so to the environment. But the thing is that doesn't actually do anything good, and it actually makes it closes the doors to actual reconciliation and all of these other things that you need to allow them time to surrender and place in front of you to be able to unpack it.
I have a 18 and older age limit, right? Because California, we don't take adolescents. So technically you're an adult when you come into my facility at 18. We've gotten a lot of 19-year-olds. We've taken some kids to prom, that are already in rehab. And some of the greatest similarities are that these parents are wanting to be their friends.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than lead them and, like truly discipline, the root there is disciple, to lead, right? And I think that parents want so badly to go into that friend space that they feel like consequences are going to affect that. And a lot of times, we're spending, time in family therapy explaining to the parents the importance of boundaries, of cutting them off financially, that if a child wants to come back into the home, that they need to set the boundary of sobriety, that they need to, get a job and make them be an adult, and that then their job is to uphold those boundaries, right? So many times, I mean, I have parents that reach out to me and they say, my kid is overdosing in my house. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, let's take a step back. How is your kid overdosing in your house? Are they paying you rent? First and foremost, no, they're not paying me rent. Okay. Because they can't work because they have this drug addiction. And I'm like, no. That's not how this works, right? They need to work if they're going to live in your home. Yeah. And they need to pay rent. And they say, well, what happens if they overdose outside of my house? And it's like, so now you're trying to control it. Yeah. Right. And is it really better what if you actually said, hey, go get your crap together, go get a job, get an apartment, rather than allowing them to stay in your house and what you're essentially just a trap house for them to use freely throughout the day. And they have no money to pay you rent, but where are they getting their drugs? Like, I promise you, they're finding a way. Yeah. And sometimes I have a group of people that, I run my business with. They spend a lot of times telling the parents, like, you're essentially buying them a tombstone right now. You're sending them money every month for their rent. Let's look at better ways to do that. Yeah. Because I promise you it's going straight in their arm. That's why they're in rehab. And some parents just don't want to hear that. Oh, my child would never, do that or lie to me. And it's like, well, they're living out of their car and they're taking $1,000 of rent for drug money, and I would say, like, one of the biggest things we tell parents is cut them off financially. Like, do not send money. Under any circumstance. If they need food, you send them food. If they need groceries, you send them groceries. You do not send them money. And that you have to start, if you want to have somebody in your home and you want to, create and foster an environment that's healthy then start holding them to adult standards. They need to work. They need to pay you rent. They need to maybe do regular, drug testing.
Yeah.
And, these are things that are very hard for parents to uphold because it is a lot of work, but it also holds parents to a higher standard. If you really want your child to live this life of integrity, then maybe that means you need to start kicking alcohol and drugs out of your life.
Yeah. Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you have kids, and you're going to be such a fantastic mom, I can't wait.
Me either.
What's your plan here? Like, what are the conversations you're going to be having at what ages? Obviously, they won't be growing up around drugs and alcohol in the home. Yeah. But as you said, they have these outside influences. There's, especially coming into those teen years. So what are the conversations that you think you personally will be having, and at what age are you going to start those? And one more question around that. We were talking about you were first introduced at a friend's house. Mm-hmm. I probably was that friend. But seriously, and a lot of there's a big culture now, and we have a number of family friends who don't let their kids have sleepovers.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, man. I always just try to be, first and foremost honest that I'm not in this place. So it's very easy for me to say, this is what I would do.
Yeah.
Right? I am anti.
I will say, though, it's good to think about it well before,
course.
because it sneaks up on you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
as Peter said before, we probably would have done things differently because you think you got time, and then you go and have kids, and all of a sudden you have a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
And you go, and then you're in it, and it's harder. So what are you doing to prepare?
Well, and I do have a 9-year-old niece and a 13-year-old nephew, and they live. I mean, I was just with them last night. Excuse me. I try to see them several times a week. My brother and his wife are incredible parents. They've really done a good job with them, and so it's kind of I get to have some of these conversations with them, but I think the biggest thing, and we have this with my niece and nephew, is there's no secrets, right? They know that Auntie just got her 10 years. Mm-hmm. They're so proud of me. They know that I have a past, and so I think that, like, having a relatable experience and kids being able to approach you, because either, sometimes you just think your parents are so far removed and like they have no idea what they're talking about and they can't possibly understand you. But being really open about my past, not that that's going to prevent, but I do want to be able to, and, Zach, my partner is also in recovery, and just being honest with, we made so many mistakes. We learned the really hard way, and there is, like, there's no shame. We don't have any guilt. I truly believe, like, they see, my niece and nephew always say, like, Auntie, you help so many people, because I speak freely about my past and, what I've learned from it. It's not like this shameful, guilt-ridden, dark, please shut the door. It's, hey, let's air it out. Let's get it out there so that people can learn. And I think, if parents were more open and honest about what they've gone through, so that they could create an environment where it's just more relatable. So that would be my hope, is that, we could have those hard conversations, not from a pedestal, but almost from a, hey, I totally get it. I was there. I get to mentor a lot of women too. I have a girl right now who's 19, and I take the very same approach, like, listen, but also, like, I lead by example. I share my experience freely, with no judgment, and just hope that she learns from it. I want to expose my children to as many things as I possibly can. I think, for me, I had this love for animals. I had this love for adventure. I had this love for being connected. And I didn't totally understand how to get there. And so having hobbies, core values as a family is something that I truly believe, we don't really talk about enough. My family, did amazing things. They did the best they could, but sometimes my dad was not home when we were having dinner. My mom wasn't home. I think eating dinner together, talking about our days, that's something that my brother and his wife do with their kids. We do Taco Tuesday every Tuesday or as many Tuesdays as we can. And just having conversations about our days that don't feel judgmental. It's like we're all just trying to figure this thing called life out together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't really, to answer your question, I don't really know what ages. I have no idea, what that looks like. But I do think just creating an environment that feels open, honest, loving, and caring. And I don't ever want my kids to feel like I'm hiding something from them, because that creates an environment of distrust. And, then they're like, well, if she's hiding, then I should probably hide. And there's no hiding. Like I was born that way. I was like, I hate anything that's, doesn't feel like it's out in the open. Let's talk about it. I mean, even how I handle conflict or even business, conversations, I want everything out in the open. Like, let's get it on the table. Let's get through this together.
Yeah.
There's nothing that we can't get through together. But when you start to hide, you start to isolate, and, things grow in the dark.
Yeah.
And I truly believe, that's when if you find your child isolating, spending a lot of time in their room, that some other things that we're not talking about that are readily available is pornography.
Yeah.
Gaming, eating. Like, there are things that, I will be much more cognizant of, because I see it in my clients, just this isolation. The opposite of addiction is not actually sobriety, it's connection.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right? And so, one thing that we started doing later in life was like playing games as a family, interacting, creating this environment. Like, I don't want a huge house. I want, us to like have as small as rooms as possible, so that we can really be together, a family, central to, like, just, that's one thing that, my brother and they don't do screen time. Like, we play games often, and, it's something so cool to just really get to know each other, get to know yourself, and just feel like this is what our family does, like having these traditions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question around that. With those younger clients that you have come through your facilities, talk to me about the families that, like, obviously you hope that the result is for all of them to move forward into sobriety in a place of strength and recover. What are the families like of the ones, is there anything sort of in common, the families that surround them that do move forward and really sort of into a place of strength? Is there a commonality there that you can see?
So the more family involvement we see is the greater success for the client. So not enmeshment, right? But where we have a plan as a unit. When we see that there's maybe an estranged mom or an estranged dad, or the kid comes in and really doesn't have a relationship at all, again, we're going back to that isolation. And so sometimes there's a lot of guilt and shame when families come in here, because they feel like it's their fault. And if I can say anything, I really don't believe this is the fault of anyone. I just, like, if you didn't cause it, you can't cure it and you can't control it.
Yeah.
And there are some things that we can do to promote a healthier environment. I believe that. But I think at the end of the day, your child is going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
They just are. And so it's, how do we respond to that, right? And some of the greatest success we see is that when there are strong boundaries put in place, and that when the family is encouraging and supportive, this isn't a guilt and shame. We all have something that we struggle with, but when we really surround the child and use this as an opportunity to learn as a unit, there's something called Al-Anon, which is it's a free family program, because they say that addiction is a family disease. And what that means is it's like the ripple effect, right? We have the addict that is in the center, that's causing all of this chaos. And whether we like it or not, it's affecting mom, it's affecting dad, it's affecting the siblings, it affects aunts and uncles, it affects the neighbors, it affects the sporting, the team that they're on, right? Like, it's not just this isolated only them, right? Their behaviors and their actions affect everyone. It has this ripple effect. And so that's what it means when we say it's a family disease, is that it's, we are all, the addict is out, drinking or not answering their phone or not coming home at night, and the parents are up worried sick, then their work is affected. Their kids see that. I mean, it truly does affect everyone. And so the family has to get recovery themselves, right? We have 12-step programs for the addict and the alcoholic to get their own recovery. But then the family needs to go and look at getting coping tools for dealing with this, right? Because you guys, I mean, and I have the luxury of being on both sides of it, right? I'm an addict and an alcoholic in recovery, but I also, my partner is an addict who's in recovery. I work with addicts in recovery. Their behavior affects me, right? We pour all of this energy and I mentor tons of women, and I have to get my own boundaries set up so that I don't take their recovery personally. Yeah. So that I don't take their consequences of their, like, it is very hard to see your child go to jail. We see that all the time, but it might be the best thing that's ever happened to them. Yeah. Right. Or to see them have to bear the consequences of their actions. I mean, that's really what being an adult is about. Yeah. Right. And if we continue to go in, rescue them, save them, I'll pay that for you. Okay, I'll get you out of debt this time. I'll bail you out. What we're doing is preventing them from having their own experience and their own consequences. And when I was 30, my family was just over it. They were sick of me messing up all of the family events, not showing up for things, coming in, absolutely loaded, saying, such embarrassing things. My brother and his wife begged me to, I could come to the wedding as long as I was sober. It was this huge ask I felt at the time. Because I just felt like they were being, overbearing. Yeah. But the reality is that, they started to set these boundaries and kind of started to step away. And it really left me to my own devices. And I was like, oh man, like now I see that, they're not even around and I'm struggling with these consequences. And I feel this darkness and I feel this sense of, loneliness and like it's no one's fault but my own that I got me here. And so, my family kind of taking a step back and letting me suffer my own consequences was some of the best things that they could have done unknowingly. Yeah, right. And I know that it was very hard for them. And I just believe that God answers an email. I really do. I know that, family and friends were praying for me for years, but there's nothing they could have done or said that would get me sober earlier. Yeah. Right? I just, for whatever reason, on October 31st, 2015, God separated me from drugs and alcohol and introduced me to a program of life that I didn't know I needed. And, I know that I tried to pick my sobriety date several times. I tried to, go to a doctor and hope that they would fix me. I tried to really manage, control, manipulate this thing. But for whatever reason, in 2015, I fully surrendered. I threw up the white flag and I was like, that's it. Yeah. And there's nothing that my family could have done or said that would have changed it or made it earlier. I think that some of the best thing they did is they started to protect themselves. Wow. Like addicts and alcoholics, especially, when we're older and we have a little bit more control and free will rather than living in our parents' home. I mean, we're tornadoes and we are bloodthirsty, going to, suck up anything we can to get what we need. And you don't try to stop a tornado. Yeah. You run and you duck for cover. Yeah. And you protect yourself. Batten down the hatches and you say, okay, well, I guess we're just going to wait till this passes, right? You try to stop a tornado and you just get brought up and you just, get hurt,
Yeah.
right? And get hit by debris, you get spit out. And this is where we get to learn how to have healthy detachment. Al-Anon is a family program. It's free and it's for parents and loved ones of addicts and alcoholics. And it teaches you coping mechanisms. In fact, you can have your own set of 12 steps.
Wow.
Because there's a lot of things that parents don't realize that they're doing. Like they want to be the fixers. They believe like, if I can just do this, like, okay, I'm going to pay his rent and then, we're going to help him get his job. It's like, no. You cannot do something for someone that they must do themselves.
Yeah.
Right? It robs them of the integrity of and just the experience that they need to have. Like failing is actually part of the process that brought me to sobriety. And if you keep going in trying to save them and, it's just going to make you crazy and it's going to delay the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can probably implement that from a young age, early teens.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to save them every time. Consequences are important. I think from preteens it's important to let them fail.
Yes.
Not even now and again, often.
Yes.
Often. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's what did somebody say to me the other day? I'm trying to remember who said it, but they basically said, as parents, we're not here to control our children. We're here as guides, and we're only able to point them in the right direction and walk alongside them. We're not here to pull them in a direction because we can't.
Right.
There's nothing we can do to put them in exactly the right position or the right way of being.
Yeah.
So it's very much it's a guidance thing. And what you said just before about we have to lead by example.
Yeah.
Super important. So yeah.
I also want to just quickly talk about the importance of both parents being on the same page, because I've seen, divorces happen because how they feel the addict or alcoholic should be handled, right? And, we have a lot of resources for free, like mentorship and, therapy for the parents, because you have to be a united front, right? Like the addict and alcoholic is incredibly manipulative. And I believe there's so much spiritual warfare that happens during this whole process. But if the enemy can start at the top and get you guys divided, then, it will trickle down to the addict and the alcoholic and how you handle it. And, it's just, I know it's really hard, but I don't want to negate the importance and the effect that happens on the marriage.
Yeah, right.
Because this is something that, will rock you and just, again, I don't have children of my own yet. I've just had firsthand experience of being in family therapy sessions and the parents are on polar opposite sides. And it's so hard to guide, your child through this process when the parents are just don't agree. The mom says, oh, no, we should buy him an apartment and give him a spending limit. And, the dad is like, no way, kick him out. He needs to be on his own. And it's like, this is where we get to offer you guys resources as a couple, and get you into, some type of, program that will get you guys on the same page to then go, and be a parent for that addict that's struggling.
Yeah, that's probably another good skill when they're young as well then, even when it doesn't come like to issues of drugs and alcohol, but be on the same page as much as possible. Yeah. And if you're going to disagree on anything, it might be a play date or it might be something to, how much homework they do after school. When they're young, if you can agree that you don't always need to be in agreement, but it's really important to be in alignment as parents.
Yes.
Later down the track, when you're dealing with some of these stickier, older, more, bigger situations, if you've practiced that as parents from a younger age, I think that would be really important. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
This was so fun. Not the best, topic to be fun about, but I do hope that it was helpful. I know that you guys are doing incredible things in parenting and helping. I think your app of Thumbsters and helping people create structure is absolutely foundational, so important. And, being able to offer this type of resource and just opening the conversation is tremendous. So thank you so much for having me. It's
Thank
an
you
honor.
for coming.
Amazing.
Yes.
And we're going to pop, is it Al-Anon?
Yes.
Their details in the show notes, and also the details for Kat's
Yeah.
sober living community, Chains to Change.
Yes.
Because that can start really from 18 and up.
Totally.
Do you have anything on there for the families, or at the moment is it just for?
We have a link for the family. We'll just take them to Al-Anon, and you can type in your zip code and you can find local meetings. You can do Zoom meetings. Al-Anon is really just a community support group, so it is really helpful to find it in your local community. But, just helpful to really understand that first and foremost, the family needs their own recovery also, that this is not isolated to the addict and the alcoholic. You have suffered trauma and need coping mechanisms for dealing with this group of individuals. And thank goodness we have a program that's free. It's available everywhere. Thank goodness for Zoom, and definitely will get some relief and some tools to help deal with the addict and the alcoholic. So, yeah.
Amazing.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thank
Kat.
you.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for joining us today on the Raising Humans Project. We'd love it if you'd leave a comment below. Tell us what you want to hear about and who you want to hear from.
Yeah. Who are the top parenting voices in the world today? Let us know.
Yeah, because we're running out of people to talk to.
We're not running out of people to talk to. Look, if you can please like, subscribe, hit the bell if you want to be notified of future episodes, and we will see you next week. Well, I'll see you at home because we parent together.
Please tell your mates because we want people to hear this.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye.